Today, I am going to talk about the origins of medicine and how we got from shamans to surgeons. This hole in the head wasn't from an act of violence, it was surgery. And the person who had it done likely lived to tell the tale. For thousands of years, medicine wasn't about science. It was about magic, spirits, and brutal trial and error. Illness wasn't a biological problem, but a spiritual invasion, a curse from angry gods. The remedies weren't found in a lab. They were in sacred plants, hypnotic chants, and in the hands of a healer who could supposedly walk between worlds. So how did we get from shamans chanting over a sickbed to surgeons in sterile rooms? What if I told you the clean, scientific world of modern medicine owes its existence to this mystical past? We're going to uncover the unexpected journey of medicine, revealing how ancient practices and primitive surgery paved the way for the medical miracles we count on today. This is the story of how we learned to heal ourselves, a path carved through millennia of belief, observation, and unbelievable courage. The mystical dawn, shamans and spirits. Long before the first hospital or anatomical chart, there was the shaman. In nearly every early culture, the first doctors were masters of the spirit world, part physician, psychologist, and priest. Their idea of sickness was completely different from ours. A nasty cough or a crippling sadness wasn't just a symptom. It was a sign of a malevolent spirit or a soul that had wandered off. To fight these invisible forces, the shaman acted as a bridge to the spirit world, often entering a trance through rhythmic drumming, chanting, or using psychoactive plants like peyote. In these altered states, they would journey into the spirit realm to diagnose the true cause of the illness, bargain with spirits, or retrieve lost parts of a patient's soul. But these practices weren't just superstition. The shaman's toolkit was packed with a deep practical knowledge of nature. They were expert herbalists with wisdom passed down through generations. They knew which plants could soothe a fever, stop bleeding, or ease pain. This was the birth of pharmacology. Many modern drugs, from aspirin, derived from willow bark, to morphine, from the poppy plant, have roots in this ancient herbal wisdom. The shaman's work shows us a fundamental truth, the powerful link between the mind, body, and spirit. They knew healing wasn't just fixing symptoms, it was about restoring wholeness. This holistic approach, treating the patient and not just the disease, is a powerful idea making a major comeback in healthcare today. The first cuts, ancient civilizations. As societies grew, healing became more complex. While the spiritual world was still a big deal, a new, more direct approach appeared, one that involved not just chanting over the body, but cutting into it. This was the dawn of surgery. The most dramatic example is trepanation, the practice of drilling or cutting a hole into the human skull. To us, it sounds like torture. Yet thousands of trepaned skulls have been found worldwide, and a huge number show clear signs of healing, meaning patients survived and lived for months or years. Survival rates were sometimes so high it suggests this was a calculated, skilled procedure, perhaps to relieve pressure from head injuries, cure seizures, or release evil spirits. It represents a monumental leap, the courage to cut into the body to save a life. In ancient Egypt, medicine gained new sophistication, mixing magic and medicine, as seen in the Ebers papyrus. Dating to 1550 BCE, this scroll has over 700 remedies and spells for everything from intestinal worms to depression. It shows Egyptian physicians used practical treatments, like honey on wounds for its antibacterial properties, right alongside incantations. The papyrus also has a surprisingly detailed description of the circulatory system, identifying the heart as the center that pumps blood through the body. This focus on internal systems was a crucial shift toward observing how the body actually works. Meanwhile, in the Indus Valley, the Sushruta Samhita, an ancient Sanskrit text from around the 6th century BCE, was revolutionary. It's a foundational text of Ayurveda, but its most stunning parts are about surgery. Sushruta described over 120 surgical instruments and detailed complex procedures like cataract surgery and even cesarean sections. Most famously, the text gives a step-by-step guide for rhinoplasty, reconstructing a nose, a technique stillest in plastic surgery today. Sushruta also stressed cleanliness, used wine as an early anesthetic, and insisted that a surgeon could only master their craft by dissecting a human body, a practice profoundly ahead of its time. The Greek and Roman Revolution, the birth of observation. The next chapter of our story takes us to ancient Greece, where a radical new idea was taking hold: What if disease was a natural process that could be understood through reason? This question, championed by the Greeks, changed medicine forever. At the center of this shift was Hippocrates, the father of medicine. In the 5th century BCE, he and his followers argued that all diseases have natural, not supernatural causes. They meticulously documented patient cases, recording symptoms and outcomes, the beginning of evidence-based medicine. The Hippocratic school also gave us the theory of the 4 humors, that the body was filled with blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Health was a perfect balance of these humors, and illness was an imbalance. While the theory was wrong, its idea was transformative. It offered a rational, systematic way to diagnose and treat disease. Centuries later, the Romans carried this fire forward. Their genius for public works led to incredible leaps in public health. They built aqueducts for clean water and sewer systems to remove waste, dramatically cutting down the spread of disease. The biggest medical figure of the Roman era was a Greek physician named Claudius Galen. By serving as a doctor to gladiators, Galen got first-hand experience with traumatic injuries. However, Roman law forbade dissecting human bodies, so his incredibly detailed anatomical reports were based on dissecting animals like apes and pigs. He correctly proved that arteries carry blood, not air, overturning a 400-year-old mistake. But because he was applying animal anatomy to humans, his work was full of major errors, like in the structure of the jaw and liver, which would go unchallenged for over 1,000 years. Galen built on Hippocratic ideas, creating a medical system so authoritative that it became the absolute dogma of Western medicine for the next 1,300 years. The Islamic Golden Age ANAMP, Medieval Europe, Preservation and Progress. As Europe entered the Middle Ages, scientific progress ground to a halt. Medical practice regressed, blending folk remedies with prayer and superstition. This created a void filled by one of history's most curious figures, the barber surgeon. Just as the name sounds, these practitioners cut hair and performed medical procedures. Skilled with razors, they were tasked with pulling teeth, lancing boils, and bloodletting. The iconic red and white striped barber pole is a relic from this era, symbolizing the bloody bandages that would hang outside their shops. But while Europe languished, a brilliant light was shining in the Islamic world. From the 8th to the 13th centuries, the Islamic Golden Age saw an explosion of scientific achievement. Rulers built magnificent libraries and hospitals, or bimaristans, which were sophisticated centers with separate wards for different diseases, treating everyone regardless of wealth or religion. Islamic scholars didn't just save the works of Hippocrates and Galen by translating them into Arabic. They critically analyzed, corrected, and vastly improved upon them. Figures like Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, wrote The Canon of Medicine, an encyclopedia that became a standard medical textbook in Europe for 600 years. But the most important figure for surgery is Abu al-Qasim al-Zahrawi, or Al-Buqasis. A 10th century physician, al-Zahrawi is called the father of modern surgery. He wrote a 30-volume encyclopedia, with its final volume dedicated entirely to surgery. It was the first ever illustrated surgical guide, showing over 200 instruments he designed. He pioneered the use of catgut for internal stitches, a material the body can dissolve on its own, and championed a patient-centered approach. His work was eventually translated into Latin and profoundly shaped European surgery for centuries. The Renaissance and Enlightenment, the dawn of modern surgery. The Renaissance sparked a renewed curiosity about the natural world, including the human body. For the first time in over a millennium, the absolute authority of ancient texts was about to be challenged by direct observation. This challenge was led by a Flemish anatomist named Andreas Vesalius. He did something revolutionary. He performed dissections himself in front of his students. He quickly realized that Galen's anatomy, based on animals, had serious flaws. In 1543, Vesalius published his masterpiece, De Humani Corporis Fabrica, on the fabric of the human body, the first comprehensive and fully illustrated textbook of human anatomy. It corrected over 200 of Galen's errors and gave the world a stunningly accurate map of the body. Vesalius is the founder of modern anatomy. With a better map, surgeons like Ambroise Paré revolutionized wound care, stopping the brutal practice of cauterizing wounds with boiling oil, and instead using soothing ointments and ligatures to tie off arteries. Yet surgery was still a terrifying last-ditch ordeal. Operations were done with the patient wide awake and strapped down. Even if a patient survived the operation, a greater danger loomed: infection. Surgeons moved between patients with unwashed tools and wore blood-stiffened coats as a badge of honor, leading to horrifying death rates. Surgery couldn't truly advance until two massive hurdles were cleared: pain and infection. The solution to pain came on October 16, 1846 at Massachusetts General Hospital. A dentist named William T.G. Morton administered ether to a patient, who then had a neck tumor removed without feeling a thing. When it was over, the surgeon told the stunned audience, "Gentlemen, this is no humbug." The age of anesthesia had begun. The fight against infection was led by English surgeon Joseph Lister. Inspired by Louis Pasteur's new germ theory, Lister started spraying surgical tools and incisions with carbolic acid, an antiseptic, in the 1860s. The results were astounding as mortality rates on his ward plummeted. The concept of antiseptic, and later aseptic or germ-free surgery, was born. With anatomy, anesthesia, and antisepsis in place, the foundation of modern surgery was finally complete. From the shaman's chant to the surgeon's scalpel, the journey of medicine has been extraordinary. We've gone from a world where sickness was a spiritual curse to one where we can map the human genome. It wasn't a straight line, but a messy process of knowledge gained, lost, and rediscovered. The shamans gave us holistic health. Ancient Egyptians and Indians pioneered surgical texts. The Greeks taught us to observe. The Islamic Golden Age preserved and innovated. And Renaissance scientists finally gave surgeons the three things they needed most: a map of the body, freedom from pain, and a weapon against infection. Today, we live in an era of medical marvels our ancestors couldn't have dreamed of. But every life-saving operation stands on the shoulders of this incredible history. The spirit of the shaman, the precision of Sushruta and Al-Zahrawi, and the curiosity of Vesalius. These are the threads that weave through the story of medicine. They remind us that at its heart, medicine has always been one of humanity's greatest endeavors, the relentless quest to ease suffering and save lives. What do you think is the most surprising part of medical history? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more dives into the history of science. Thanks for watching.